I told everything that was going on in the house, to whoever would listen. One day he said, "You all need to come in here, sit down in front of the TV. I'm going to teach you all." So he put us all in front of the TV. He put this X-rated movie on it. You're watching, going to a lady's mouth. And I said, I got to use the bathroom. I was staying in the bathroom too long. So he beat me for that because he knew that I was lying when I said I want to use the bathroom instead of watching people have they're 12 years old. He would make me lay across the chair for absolutely nothing. I don't think that man liked me. And then I talked too much. I told everything that was going on in the house, to whoever would listen. He would line us up like soldiers after he put us in the tub, after he washed us up himself, put his finger up inside of us, smell it and say, "You're not clean enough. Get back in the tub." My stepmother made pancakes. I wanted another pancake. And he got up out the bed. He was angry because I wanted another pancake. I was getting more angrier as the years went by. I'm like, this the night. I would sit up some nights and be like, this the night I'm going to go down there and cut his heart out because you're still raping my sister. So he would come down to the room in the middle of the night, wake me and my sister up, send us to the bathroom, send us somewhere so he can freaking do whatever it is he wanted to do to that sister while we were in the back in the bathroom. Then that's when she was telling me everything. She was just tired of it. Now she's gotten to the point where one day, I'll never forget this day for the rest of my life. We sat down at the table and we had a family discussion because my sister said, "I'm going to tell my mother." And she did. She says, "He's been raping us for years." I'll never forget it because his response to that was, they don't say anything when I pay them money. The older they got, he started handing them money after raping them. So when he started selling, I was about 12 and a half. Then he started using. So my beatings got worse because he was, and everything that I did, he thought I was being a bad little girl. So by this time, I'm like the 7th, 8th grade at the second house that we moved into. I was an honor student, always. Very smart, too smart for my own good. I fought every day because I needed to put that anger somewhere because I couldn't use it in the house. I wasn't a happy child. I had one teacher that I called her when I became an adult and I talked to her about everything. She says, "Why didn't you tell me? We all just thought you were such an evil little child." I'm like, I saw my sister didn't get any help with the school. I didn't think the school was going to help me. And I'm saying all the time, why isn't anybody looking saying something has to be happening at home with this child for her to be this angry? Nobody said anything. Nobody picked up on it. The last beating, me and my sister was on our way to the store. We stopped at my friend's house for maybe 2 minutes. My father was driving down the street and seen us coming out of that house. And so we knew we were going to get beat when we got home. We get back home. They take her in the back first, and they're both beating her. I hear her screaming, this is child abuse and things like that. My stepmother never hit me, so when my sister beating was over, I went into the back with my father by myself. But this time I was like, I'm just going to fight back. And so it was worse because now he's fighting me like I'm a man because I'll fight back. After that beating was over, I told my 2 sisters I'm leaving tomorrow. So they knew my plan. Got up the next morning. By then, I figured out she let him keep us because she had a baby. She had a baby, and she said if he turned her in to the FBI, she didn't want to leave her baby. So she thought we were safe because we was with our father. So I found her, and I knocked on her door, and she came downstairs, and I told her, "I don't care what you have to go through. I'm not going back there. I don't care about the FBI or nobody else." She started crying. She picked the phone up. She called CPS. CPS came out, took all my clothes off, looked at my body. They looked at her and said, what kind of woman would allow a man to keep her child and do this to her? And I felt bad for her. They just tore into her because they saw my body and they took me to that hospital. Police looked at me and said, "There's no possible way your father done these things, and I don't believe you." So I told the social worker, "Can you come in here? Because now I'm so angry, I'll spit fire in this man's face. Get him away from me." So the social worker made the police leave. They admitted me. I was in the hospital for 7 days. I had a police officer at the door, but no one could visit me that was a male, just in case my father knew where I was. And that's how it ended. I left there. CPS went back to the house. They took my sister out. They asked the other 2 girls, did they want to leave? They wanted to stay with their mother. But he went to jail for 5 years for beating me like that. The one thing that I remember, oh my God, they woke me up 7 times all through the night asking me to repeat the story over and over again. I think they were trying to make sure the story wasn't going to change. And only thing I remember having that affected my body was stomach ulcers at 13. I had a bunch of stomach ulcers at 13 and I never had a drink in my life. So the doctor said it came from worrying. All those years I was worrying, trying to figure out how to get me and my sister out of that house. And the stomach ulcers formed. But everything else was outer, just a bunch of bruises and cuts, The 7-day stay at the hospital. I had cuts on my arm, open cuts on my leg, my stomach, my back. because he was just really just fighting me and dragging me all over that back room because I refused to sit down and take another beating. So he did a lot of extra beating on me than he would have if I had sat still and let him beat me with the extension cord, which I wasn't going to do that day. I wasn't having it that day. That's why they kept taking my clothes off, looking at my body and asking me what happened over and over again. I don't know why they kept me 7 days, but I believe they wanted to make sure I was safe. That's why they put the police at the door, and they wanted to make sure. They did a lot of testing on my stomach. My mother caught the bus every day to see me. I know for sure she felt so terribly bad that day. That whole week she felt bad. Wasn't nothing she could do. I realize that now. It wasn't nothing she could do. She wanted to be with her baby, so I don't hate her now. I hated her then. I hated her for a very long time. I was very disrespectful to her. I wanted to fight her. I wanted to kill her too. Like you left me with this. So I did not have to go to court or anything. I believe that the social workers, they did their job. He went to jail for 5 years for child abuse and child neglect. And they took care of it for me. I didn't have to go to court not one day. The day that they went to go get my baby sister, the social workers came back and told me that he passed out and said, please don't take my baby. Y'all can have Keisha. Y'all can have her. Please don't take my baby. So she says, I want to go home to my mother. And his heart was broken. So now you have me, a teenager with all this anger just out here in the world. Just mad at everybody, including me. Trying to kill my own self 6 times. The last time I really came close to death, scared the hell out of myself. So I said I'm not going to do that ever again in life. That I've done. No one cares about your story. No one cares about what you've been through, what you went through. All they know is they see you as a menace to society. I was a very angry child, and I've threatened to kill him a lot of days as an adult woman. And it was just only God that stopped me. Growing up, my mother and her siblings were running from the FBI, so we ended up going from state to state. When I was 9 years old, my father kidnapped me and my baby sister from my mom. He took us to the lady house that he had the 6 children with. He was never there. He was still a street man. My body was going through some changes. I was throwing up blood. And when he would come in there once a week to say hello, he would look at me and scream and holler, I'm not going to a hospital. When I was still 10, he moved us into his second girlfriend's house. She had 2 daughters. The very first day, I will never forget walking through the door. My stepmother sister looked me in my face and she says, your father is a rapist. And one day me and my stepsister was sitting on the couch. My father asked her to come to the back room with him. Instantly I felt uneasy. I just felt bad. And she was screaming. He comes out the room and tell me to never repeat anything that goes on in this house. Well, since he told me not to repeat it, I told everybody who would listen. And so he beat me really, really bad for telling everybody what happened. We were sitting on the couch minding our own business. Very happy children for whatever the situation was. And she goes back here and now all of a sudden she's screaming and she's not happy. So when she came out the room, the first time she never mentioned anything to me. She just looked like she was just violated in some form. She didn't explain anything to me till maybe the 3rd time. She was looking like she was crying and screaming. Just this ashamed look on her face. The look on her face made me want to fight. I wanted to kill him at that moment. I am now 51. I'm a mother of 6 children. God has blessed me with 10 children. I wrote 6 books about my life. All of them true stories. And I wrote a children's book. Even the children's book is a true story of me in the 3rd grade. My first fight. I'm very proud of the woman that I am today. I titled my first book, I Didn't Kill Anyone Because the World Looks at Me Like I Did. I never murdered anyone. I've been locked up a couple of times for attempted murder, but I've never murdered anyone. I was angry because the world treated me like that. So I decided to work with children. I love children. They are amazing. Stop judging these children like they're horrible people because you don't know anything that's going on at home. And they are afraid to say what's going on in their life because they feel like no one will listen.